Okay, today we are going to learn how to round with Cinderella. This is one of my all-time favorite stories to tell in math. Because in math, really, we don't get to tell many stories. But this one is so much fun. And who doesn't love Cinderella and the power of her fairy godmother? Okay, the main characters of this story are our fairy godmother, Cinderella, and the fairies in training. And then these are her little mice friends. And those mice friends, they go everywhere with Cinderella because they just love her so much. And all the fairies in training, they go everywhere with the fairy godmother because they want to learn everything they can from that fairy godmother. So let's get started with our story. The first thing we need in our story is we need a number. Okay? So let's take the number, let's do 34,731. Okay? Now, first thing you need to know is you're going to have to figure out what bench in the garden Cinderella's sitting at. Because if the fairy godmother can't find Cinderella, she can't help her out. Okay? And there are so many different benches in the garden. And the bench that Cinderella is sitting at today is the thousands bench. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to find Cinderella and you're going to draw that bench. So if I am rounding to the thousands, Cinderella is sitting on the bench in the thousands place. So Cinderella's a 4, and I'm going to draw my bench right below Cinderella. Okay? Now, fairy godmother always comes to Cinderella and finds her at her bench and finds her crying, and she says, "Oh, honey, please don't cry. What is your problem?" And Cinderella tells her everything that happened and everything those wicked stepsisters did. And her little mice friend are sitting right there, and they're going, "Yeah." And they tore up the pretty dress that we made her. And then the little fairies in training are behind the fairy godmother saying, "You've got to help her, fairy godmother." And so fairy godmother is like, "Yes, of course, dear, I will help you." So the fairy godmother always kind of will stand behind Cinderella because she's patting her on the back, trying to make her feel better. So if I take a look, where is the fairy godmother? Right here behind Cinderella. She's the number 7, okay? Now you might wonder, well, who's 31? Well, 31, okay, I went ahead and labeled my digits for you. So you might wondering, who's 31? Well, 31 are those little fairies in training, and they always stand right behind the fairy godmother. Okay, and then who's that 3? Well, the 3, whoops, I'm not sure what I just, hold on. Okay, the 3 are the little mice friends that are always right there with Cinderella everywhere she goes. Okay, so let's get back to our story. So Cinderella, number 4, is sitting on the bench, and the fairy godmother's standing behind her, and she is going to use her magical power of that wand. Now, we're going to have to pause in our story just one moment again so we can talk about the power of the wand. Now, every wand has power to it, but the fairy godmother's wand, she has to charge it, just like we have to charge everything. And sometimes, if she's used it a lot, it doesn't have much charge. So it's only got 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 bars. And if it doesn't have any charge at all, then she has no power. She doesn't have enough power to change, okay? Now, sometimes she's just taken it off her charger and hasn't used it very much, and she's got 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 bars on there, and she has enough power to change. Okay, so that's very important. All right, so we're taking a look at this. We have 34,731. We have Cinderella's number 4, and she's sitting on her bench in the thousands place. Fairy godmother's number 7. Fairy godmother's number 7, right behind Cinderella. The 31, or the 3 and the 1, are the fairy godmothers in training. And then the 3 are the little mice friends of Cinderella. Okay, so fairy godmother has 7 bars. That means that she has enough power to change Cinderella. And Cinderella becomes a 5. She ends up getting to wear the beautiful ball gown. And the fairy godmother is so happy for her. But here's the thing. The fairy godmother was like, bibbidi, bobbidi, boo. And she used all of her power. So she is back down to 0. She's got to put it back on that charger. And her fairies in training, they always give the fairy godmother all of their power too. So they are down to 0. And then the little mice friends of Cinderella, they will go with her to the ball because they go everywhere that she goes. So now we have 35,000. So 34,731 rounds up to 35,000. Now that's a whole lot on one page, isn't it? Okay, let's try another one. Let's go with the number, what are we going to do here? Let's go with 42,371. And Cinderella is sitting on the thousands bench. We're going to do thousands again just for this one. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go find where Cinderella's sitting. Here's Cinderella. She's number 2. Well, where's that fairy godmother? The fairy godmother is right behind Cinderella. How much power does that fairy godmother have? She's got 3. So she's going bibbidi, bobbidi, boo. And nothing happens. And she's like, come on, little fairies in training, give me your power. Bibbidi, bobbidi, boo. And nothing still happens because, remember, if she only has a charge of 1, 2, 3, or 4, she does not have enough power to change Cinderella because it takes a lot to change Cinderella into wearing that beautiful dress. So that means that Cinderella stayed the same. But she stayed the same. She's still wearing her torn up dress. The fairy godmother lost all of her power, and the fairies in training lost all of their power too. Now Cinderella is still sitting there, and she's so sad, and she's crying. But you know what? Her mice friend go everywhere with her, so they're there to console her. So our new number is now 42,371 rounds to 42,000. Now let's take a look at that and take a look at what it looks like in the way that we have been doing it before. So if we have 42,371, remember how we would say, okay, what thousands would this number fall between? So we know that it is between 42,000 and 43,000, right? So this number comes somewhere in the middle. But if we were to draw a number line representing this, and this was the middle, this number is going to come closer to 42,000. Let's try another one. Okay, so let's say that our number is 341,982. Okay, now first thing you got to ask yourself, where is Cinderella sitting? Well, this time Cinderella is sitting in the tens bench. Okay, that means we're rounding to the tens. So I'm going to underline the bench, Cinderella, and Cinderella's an 8. So we know that she's either going to stay an 8 and still be wearing her tattered old clothes, or she's going to become a 9 and be wearing her beautiful princess dress. Okay, so where's that fairy godmother? Well, right behind her. The fairy godmother's a 2. And if you notice, the little fairies in training, they didn't even get out of bed this morning. There's none of them there. It's just the fairy godmother all by herself. And she only has the power of 2. And if she's got 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, she has no power. So she's like, bibbidi, bobbidi, boo. And nothing happens, and bibbity bobbity boo, and nothing still happens, and the poor fairy godmother becomes a 0. And then Cinderella stays the same. She doesn't get to change. But the good thing is all of her mouse friends go with her. So 341,982 rounded to the nearest 10 is 341,980. And once again, if I were to ask myself, what 10s would that fall between? 341,980 and 341,990. Okay? And actually, it would fall about right here. Let's try another one. Actually, I want you to do this one. I want you to get out a sheet of paper. If you have to pause the video, that's fine. I want you to write down the number 32,784. Okay. And we are going to round to the hundreds place. If you need to pause this video for a minute to get this written down, that's fine. Okay, first thing I want you to do, you should have 32,784 written on your paper. Underline Cinderella. Draw her bench. You should have drawn it on the 7 because Cinderella is sitting in the hundreds bench. Draw an arrow to the fairy godmother. The fairy godmother is your 8. Now ask yourself, does that fairy godmother have enough power? Well, she's got 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, then she does have enough power. Woohoo! Okay, so she's like, all right, little fairies in training, give me your power. And she goes, bibbity, bobbity, boo. And Cinderella changes to an 8 into her beautiful ball gown. Now remember, fairy godmother and the fairies in training lost all of their power making that transformation. And Cinderella's little mice friends are so excited. They are going to go with her. Because remember, they just stay the same and they always go with her. So 32,784 rounds to 32,800. And if I were to think about that on a number line, we know that 32,784 falls somewhere between 32,700 and 32,800 if we're rounding to the hundreds. Okay? And it's actually going to fall about right here, a little bit closer. So that's why it rounds to 32,800. Okay, let's try another one. Again, make sure you have your paper and your pencil. This time we are going to round to the 10,000s. So where is Cinderella's bench in the garden? The 10,000s place. Very good. Okay, let's write down the number. We have, let's go big. 1,785,316. Woo, big number. All right, so 10,000s. Go find that 10,000s bench. Well, here's the ones, the tens, the hundreds, the thousands, 10,000s. There's Cinderella. Draw an arrow to the fairy godmother. How much power does that fairy godmother have? Right, she has 5. She has 5 bars. That means that she has enough to change Cinderella. Now, remember the fairy godmother and all her fairies in training. They lost all their power. But Cinderella's mice friends get to go with her. So we have 1,790,000. If I were to ask myself what 10,000s would this number fall between, it would fall between 1,780,000 and 1,790,000. Whoops. A little happy with my 9s there. So where would it fall? Actually, in reality, it'd fall probably about right here on the number line. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple. crud. My video was paused. I'm not sure where I lost it at. But I want you to do these two on your own. So I want you to write down 42,860. You're going to round it to the tens place, and then you're going to write it down again and round it to the thousands place. So I want you to pause your video, solve these, and then come back and watch the video to check your answers. Okay, let's see how you did. So first of all, if we're rounding to the tens place, Cinderella's bench is the tens place. So we have the ones, and there's the tens. Where's the fairy godmother? Draw an arrow and circle her power. How much power does that fairy godmother have? She's got 0. That means she doesn't have enough power, and Cinderella's going to stay the same, isn't she? Fairy godmother's going to lose all her power, but she didn't have any power anyways. And then all the little mice friends, they just go right with Cinderella, and they kind of console her in that garden. So it actually stays the same, 42,860. That one was a tricky one. I hope you didn't fall for it. Let's try rounding to the thousands place. Well, number 2's Cinderella, so we'll draw our bench. Draw an arrow to the fairy godmother and circle her power. Well, the fairy godmother has 8. So she has enough power to change Cinderella. So Cinderella becomes a 3. The fairy godmother and all their fairies in training lose all their power and they become 0s. And her little mice friends go right along with her to the ball. 43,000. Okay, I know this is silly, but hopefully it helps you to round in some of those higher numbers. Okay, so what I want you to do now, you have a lesson posted in Google Classroom. It is your online math book, and the tools are right there in your math book where you can write, but it might really be a whole lot easier if you wrote these numbers down on paper to solve. Okay, if you have any more questions, let me know. Email me. We'll do some review with this tomorrow, and actually our test is Wednesday.